Marina drifted at the water's surface, her sleek fur glistening like liquid onyx in the first pale rays of dawn. Around her, the kelp forest swayed in gentle currents, blades of emerald and olive undulating against shafts of gold sunlight. The air above rippled with the calls of terns and the distant cry of pelicans winging out to sea. But below the glassy surface lay a quieter world of crevices and rocky ledges. Marina's bright eyes scanned the reef's edge, whiskers twitching at the tang of salt and the faint pulse of hidden life. Her whiskers caught a sudden, frantic flutter, a movement too desperate for a fish and too small for a crab. She dove without hesitation, nose first through the sunlit water, folding her paws against her chest and then unfurling them into powerful oars. Each stroke carried her deeper into the kelp's dappled shadows, until she reached a narrow canyon carved by ancient waves. There, clinging to a rough, barnacle-encrusted rock, was the source of the distress, an orange starfish, one arm hopelessly trapped in the ghost net's glistening threads. Its other limbs pulsed weakly as it tried to free itself, only to tighten the netting further against its soft tissues. Tiny polychaete worms sensed the struggle and darted away, leaving only the trapped star at the center of the silent veil. Marina hovered above, nostrils flaring to draw in the water's crisp coolness. The otter's heart hammered at the sight of the starfish's plight. So helpless, so vulnerable. She cooed softly, a rhythmic sound meant to soothe, and the starfish's mottled body quivered in response, as if recognizing an ally beneath the waves. With one forepaw braced against the rock's slick surface, Marina extended her other paw and began to trace the net's filaments, mapping each knot and loop with gentle precision. The net's nylon strands were rough against her pads, but she worked undeterred, using her teeth to grip stray threads and pull them loose. Light filtered down in shifting patterns, and each lift of Marina's paw sent motes of silt, drifting away like underwater snow. The starfish's pulses slowed, confidence blooming in its quiet motions as each loop of net fell free. Marina paused only to reposition, her brown eyes never leaving the star's writhing form. When at last she reached the final bind, where the net's filament had gouged into the star's tube foot, she paused to let the creature's gill plates settle, then bit firmly but carefully, severing the last stubborn strand. A plume of bubbles burst from the cut piece of net as it floated upward, and the starfish released a long, slow pulse of relief, its body flaring wide in a silent stretch of renewed freedom. Marina exhaled in a swirl of tiny bubbles, then guided the starfish down to a sandy shelf just beyond the kelp's fringe. She nudged it gently into a shallow depression, smoothing away lingering fibers of net with soft sweeps of her paw. The starfish flexed each arm experimentally, feeling the freedom for the first time, and clung to the rock floor with renewed strength. Above them, the kelp swayed and sunlight danced, and Marina rose with a triumphant chuff, her underwater mission's first victory echoing like a quiet heartbeat through the reef's hidden corridors. Marina lingered above the sandy shelf, her dark eyes following the starfish's slow, pulsing strides as it tested each freed arm. But the reef held more perils than just discarded nets. Downcurrent, a larger patch of ghost net, thicker, tangled and weighted with barnacle-encrusted stones, drifted menacingly among the corals. Her instincts told her that more creatures could become ensnared, so she took a deep breath, flexed her webbed feet, and plunged downward with determined grace. Below the shelf, the reef fell away into a labyrinth of towering coral spires and cavernous overhangs. Shafts of sunlight pierced the blue-green gloom like searchlights, illuminating swirling schools of fish that darted away at her approach. Marina weaved through the maze, avoiding razor-sharp staghorn corals and brushing past swaying gorgonians. Each movement was silent, but for the muffled whoosh of her strokes, a ballet of purpose guiding her toward the drifting hazard. At last she came upon the ghost net's epicenter, a knotted mass of ghostly threads swirling around a rock, trapping a small moray eel in its sticky embrace. The eel's sinuous body writhed in panic, its spotted hide slick with sand as it struggled to free its tail. Marina's whiskers quivered at the sight, the eel's wide, terrified eye fixed on her in a plea for rescue. Gently, she anchored herself by wrapping one forepaw around a sturdy rock, then used her other paw and nimble teeth to begin the delicate work of untying the net's loops. The net's filaments, twisted by sand and sea life, resisted her first few bites, but Marina persisted. She tugged and gnawed, plying the nylon apart strand by strand, careful not to slash the eel's smooth skin. With each liberated loop, the eel's tension eased, its tail flicked in cautious hope. Tiny cleaner shrimp sensed the commotion and began picking at stray net fragments and parasites on the eel's body, grateful for the chance to feed. Marina watched as they worked, making mental note to thank them later, with a gentle bubble of appreciation. Finally, when the largest, toughest coil surrendered under the combined assault of her sharp teeth and patient paws, the remaining filaments slackened. The eel flexed its muscles, twisting free in a burst of silvery motion. It slipped through a crevice in the rock, then paused to glance back at Marina before darting off into the safety of the reef's shadows. Marina exhaled in a plume of bubbles, heart swelling with pride. She gathered the loose strands of net into a small bundle and secured them against a nearby sponge, ensuring they could harm no other creature. As she ascended toward the sunlit shallows, Marina glanced back at the labyrinth below, the eel's escape a testament to her soft-pawed bravery. Above, the starfish lay content on the sandy shelf, and Marina's powerful strokes carried her homeward for a moment's rest. Her underwater mission far from over, but every rescued creature already engraving a story of hope in the reef's hidden corridors. Marina's muscles ached pleasantly as she drifted up into the shallows, the reef's riot of color spreading out beneath her like a living tapestry. But her keen eyes caught a new flicker of distress. A small, spiny lobster, its carapace scraped raw, had ventured too close to a coil of ghost net, tangled in a patch of finger coral. One of its massive claws lay ensnared, the weight of its own shell pulling it helplessly between coral arms. Marina paused a moment to stash the last strands of net from the moray's rescue into a sheltered crevice, then dove again, heart pounding in renewed purpose. Below, the water held its breath in a hush of suspended particles as Marina approached the trapped crustacean. The lobster's antennae waved in frantic circles, searching for purchase, even as each twitch tightened the net's grip. Marina settled beside it, her pelt brushing the coral's rough edges, and let out a series of comforting chuffs to calm its frantic thrashing. She pressed one paw gently against the lobster's back, steadying it, then reached into the mesh tangle, claws splayed for control. With a swift snap of her teeth, she severed a loop, and the lobster flexed its free claw in tentative triumph, only to find another strand still dragging its joint. Marina paused to plan her next move, scanning the net's convoluted connectors like a puzzle. Tiny cleaner wrasse darted in to inspect the scene, their bright stripes flashing as they nibbled parasites from the lobster's shell. Taking heart in their efficiency, Marina worked in concert. She held the net taut with one paw, while she used the other to pull a stubborn strand away from the lobster's claw pad. Each tug echoed faintly against the reef's silent walls, and the lobster's rasping gill plates slowed in relief. Finally, after what felt like an eternity beneath the kelp canopy, Marina unknotted the last loop. The lobster flexed each leg experimentally, then pushed its claw free in a surge of frantic motion that scattered sand like powdered silver. Careful not to startle it, Marina nudged the lobster toward a nearby refugium of rock and crevice, a safe alcove she knew from previous foraging trips. The lobster slipped inside, antennae twitching in gratitude, and Marina watched as it curled into a protective posture beneath a waving frond of coralline algae. Satisfied, she gathered the freed net strands and tied them into a compact bundle, pressing them deep into the crevice's overhang, so they could wash away without harming any more reef inhabitants. Ascending toward dappled light, Marina felt the reef's pulse in every stroke of her paws. Each creature she'd freed, the starfish, the moray eel, now the lobster, seemed to radiate a quiet strength, a testament to the otter's unwavering mission. At the surface, she rolled onto her back and floated among the swaying kelp, whiskers breaking the glassy water as she gazed down at the hidden world. Around her, shafts of sunlight danced across the reef floor, illuminating the paths she had cleared. In the distance, the call of a gull drifted on the breeze, and Marina lifted her head in a triumphant chuff. Her underwater mission was far from complete. Ghost nets lay scattered beyond the kelp's fringe, but in that moment, each small rescue felt like a beacon of hope. With renewed resolve, she dove once more, ready to continue her silent crusade against the nets that threatened her home's fragile beauty. Marina rose again to the surface for a single breath, nostrils skimming the mirror-smooth water before she slipped beneath the kelp canopy once more. The sun's rays, filtered through waving fronds, painted shifting streaks of emerald and gold across the reef's undulating floor. Yet as Marina glided deeper, her heart tightened at the sight of another victim. A parrotfish, its jewel-toned scales dulled by panic, was trapped within the folds of a ghost net snagged on a coral bommy. Its pectoral fins beat in frantic rhythm, sending clouds of sediment spiraling into the blue, and each desperate lunge only tangled the net more tightly around its midsection. Marina caught her breath in a hiss of bubbles, then angled toward the parrotfish with careful caution. The fish's wide, mournful eye followed her approach, and Marina offered a soft chuff of reassurance. She traced the net's saffron strands with delicate precision, noting how they constricted the parrotfish above delicate gill slits. Positioning herself between it and a waving plume of gorgonian, she wedged one forepaw beneath its body to support its weight against the current. With her other paw, she probed for the net's thickest knot, teeth bared in readiness. The mesh resisted her first tugs. Barnacles curved around the nylon like tiny sentinels. Yet Marina's resolve never faltered. She bit firmly through a loop anchored by those barnacles. Feeling the fibers give way in a satisfying snap, the parrotfish exhaled in a hiss of relief, its scales glinting once more as light filtered over its freed flanks. But the net remained wrapped around its tailstock in a complex crisscross of fractures and ties. Marina paused to let the fish settle, fins fluttering in grateful tremors, before turning her attention to the entangled tail. With each pull, she adjusted her grip, pressing the net against a smooth patch of coral to hold it steady as she gnawed through each filament. The parrotfish thrashed its liberated fins in cautious arcs, testing its range of motion as Marina worked steadily. Tiny cleaner wrasse darted forward again, drawn to the disturbed net and the fish's healing wounds, and they nipped gently at stray bits of debris clinging to its scales. Their arrival spurred Marina on. Together they formed an underwater rescue team. Otter, fish, and shrimp united in purpose. At last, with a final decisive tug, Marina freed the last strand that tethered the parrotfish's tail. A plume of bubbles erupted as the net drifted away, spiraling through the water in silent resignation. The fish darted in a series of joyful loops, scales flashing turquoise and fuchsia like living jewels, before returning to brush Marina's muzzle in what seemed an acknowledgement of her aid. Marina returned the gesture with a soft bubble, then guided the parrotfish to a sheltered alcove, where waving coralline fronds formed a gentle refuge. She scattered a handful of crushed shell, rich in calcium and favored by parrotfish, to strengthen its recovering scales, watching as it pecked gratefully at the fragments. When she finally ascended toward the bright surface, Marina felt a profound warmth bloom in her chest. Each life she freed was a beacon of hope in the reef's vast cathedral. Above, the tide shimmered with morning light, and she drifted among the kelp, whiskers breaking the water in gentle arcs as she prepared for the next descent. The ghost nets still lay tangled beyond the kelp's fringe, but with each patient rescue, Marina's underwater mission wove a tapestry of renewal across the reef's hidden corridors, one gentle chuff at a time. Marina paused only briefly on the sunlit shelf before the next flash of frantic movement caught her eye. A young octopus was entangled in the ghost net's ghostly loops against a coral overhang. Its mottled arms writhed with panicked force, tiny suckers clinging to the net's slick filaments as it tried to pull free. The octopus's bulbous head pulsed with each inhalation, its pale eyes reflecting both terror and trust when Marina hovered into view. With a deliberate grace earned from countless dives, she tucked her forepaws beneath her and dropped down beside her newest charge, mindful of the delicate coral that cradled its fragile body. The current teased at her fur, stirring motes of sand into lazy spirals, but Marina's focus never wavered. Gently, she pressed one paw against a smooth patch of limestone to steady herself, then reached out with the other to draw the net away from the octopus's webbed mantle. Each tug threatened to tighten the loops further, so she paused to let the creature calm, chuffing soft encouragement as its arms slowed their frantic thrashing. Then, with her teeth as her guide, she bit carefully through the thickest strand nearest the octopus's body, severing it in a single, clean snap that echoed softly through the reef's silent corridors. Freed of that first lacing, the octopus released a plume of ink, an instinctive salute to freedom, and darted a single arm toward Marina in what seemed like a gentle, "Thank you," but many more loops still clung stubbornly around its flailing limbs. Marina traced each filament with patient precision, her paws working in tandem to hold the net taut, while her teeth found the smallest gaps to cut. Cracks formed in the mesh, and with every liberated segment, the octopus inched toward open water, its arms flexing in cautious exploration of newfound mobility. Behind them, cleaner shrimp arrived once more, drawn by the disturbance, and they darted in to nibble away barnacles and stray bits of debris from the octopus's skin. Marina welcomed their help, pausing to blow bubbles of gratitude that tickled the shrimp's antennae. Then, with the last filaments undone, she nudged the octopus forward, guiding it to a nearby cavern, where intricate folds of rock and waving tube worms offered a safe haven. The octopus curled into a graceful spiral within the crevice, its body pulsing with relief and curiosity, tasting the salty embrace of freedom. She gathered the cut net fragments into a tight bundle and stashed them beneath an overhanging ledge, where the tide could carry them harmlessly away. As Marina ascended to the glowing surface, her limbs ached with the day's work, but her spirit rode a wave of quiet triumph. The reef below teemed with life. Every creature she'd helped, from starfish to eel, lobster to parrotfish to octopus, now safe in the reef's gentle arms. Marina rolled onto her back in a swirl of kelp, whiskers trailing in the current, and let the rising sun warm her fur as she prepared to dive once more, ready to continue her underwater mission until every ghost net lay shredded and every reef resident swam free. Marina lingered only long enough at the surface to catch her breath before slipping once more beneath the gentle swell. The reef's tapestry of life flickered beneath her, schools of butterfly fish weaving through coral arches, sponges pulsing in the current, and anemones extending their waving tentacles like dancers, reaching for the light. But even amid this bustle, her keen eyes spotted a lone figure struggling on a sand-choked ledge. A juvenile green sea turtle, its powerful flippers ensnared in the ghost net's cruel web. The net's loops bound two flippers tight against its carapace, and each frantic thrust of its free limbs only dragged the turtle deeper into the tangle. Marina dove with urgent purpose, weaving through the kelp stalks until she reached the captive turtle. It turned its head, eyes wide with fear and exhaustion, as Marina let out a soft series of chirps meant to calm rather than startle. She circled once, mapping the net's pattern. The main lines knotted around the turtle's shoulder muscles, secondary loops wrapped beneath its carapace rim. With a determined cheer-up, she pressed one paw against the smooth shell, bracing herself against the current, and extended her other paw to grip a loose strand of nylon. Her movements were deliberate and unhurried, for she knew that any rush could injure the turtle's delicate tissues. Gently, she pulled the first loop until it slipped free, then turned her attention to the thicker knots binding the rear flipper. Marina anchored her tail against the rock floor for added leverage, then knelt on her chest to stabilize her posture. Using her sharp teeth, she gnawed through the filament with a single, clean snap, and the turtle exhaled in a rush of bubbles as relief flooded its lungs. Still, much of the net remained entangled in the turtle's flipper joints. Marina paused to let the creature settle, fins fluttering in a measured rhythm that mirrored her own steady breath. Twice more she bit through the remaining loops, each time freeing another segment of flipper until the turtle could flex it fully for the first time in agonizing hours. It flexed its limb experimentally, then swept both flippers in a grateful stroke that stirred a swirl of golden sand into the blue. Marina guided the turtle off the ledge and into a nearby seagrass meadow, a sanctuary she knew well, where wave action was gentle and predators scarce. She nudged the turtle into soft blades of eelgrass, tucking its freed flippers into the protective fronds. Once assured of its safety, she turned back toward the reef to stow the final net fragments. But as she swam away, she paused to watch the turtle lift its head and glance back at her with clear, knowing eyes. A silent thank you exchanged beneath the ripple of the world's oldest ocean currents. When Marina reached the tangle of ghost nets she had discarded earlier, she gathered the last shards into a compact bundle and secured them inside a crevice thick with sponges. Then, with a final, triumphant chuff, she shot upward through the kelp into the shimmering surface light, heart soaring with the knowledge that another life had been spared. The reef lay vibrant and intact around her. Each creature she had freed a testament to her patient courage. And though more nets still snagged the ocean's hidden depths, Marina's underwater mission pressed on, one careful rescue at a time, until every ghost net lay broken and every reef resident swam free once more. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting the reef in a violet glow that shimmered through the gentle swell, Marina made her final descent for the day. The kelp fronds whispered overhead as she slipped into the cool embrace of the water, determination lifting her powerful strokes. She paused on the sandy shelf where the rescued starfish lay, arms outstretched in newfound freedom, then drifted to the morae's cavern, where the eel now coiled amid barnacles, its spotted body pulsing with quiet gratitude. A flick of Marina's paw set up a small current that sent loose net fragments spiraling harmlessly away. Next, she glided toward the finger coral, where the lobster had taken refuge. There, the crustacean emerged from its alcove and tapped Marina in passing, antennae quivering in thanks before it scuttled back into safety. Marina pressed onward, slicing through the last loops of net that threatened the reef's peace and tucking them with finality into a sponge crevice, where they would remain buried by shifting sands. Her dark eyes then sought out the parrotfish's alcove, and she found it darting among waving coralline algae, its iridescent scales glinting like living gemstones. A gentle nudge from Marina encouraged the fish to swim freely into open water, its joyful arcs sending flecks of light dancing across the reef walls. Further along, the rescued octopus lay hidden in its rocky refuge, tentacles coiled in serene repose. Marina tapped the stone and watched as it unfurled each arm one by one, exploring its surroundings with calm assurance before melting back into the reef's folds. The juvenile turtle, too, had found sanctuary among swaying seagrass. It raised its head in a slow, deliberate nod to Marina, then paddled into the gentle current, its flippers carving slow, peaceful arcs. With all the reef's rescued residents content in their hidden havens, Marina paused at the reef's edge. The net fragments she had gathered lay, bundled neatly beneath a ledge, already beginning to drift apart under the tide's caress. Ghost nets transformed from instruments of harm into harmless threads scattered by the sea. Above her, the last rays of twilight filtered down in silver bands, illuminating the reef's contours in a surreal, dreamlike glow. Marina drifted slowly upward, her coat catching the fading light like polished obsidian, whiskers breaking the surface with a soft chuff. Gulls wheeled overhead, their calls echoing across the emptying sky, and the reef beneath settled into a tranquil hush. For a moment she floated among the kelp, the gentle rocking of the tide lulling her into calm reflection. Each life she had freed, starfish, eel, lobster, parrotfish, octopus, turtle, now thrived in the reef's silent cathedral. As darkness enveloped the ocean's edge, Marina rolled onto her back and let the inky water cradle her. In the quiet depths of night, she felt the reef's heartbeat in every pulse of the waves against her fur, a living testament to her unwavering mission. And though the ghost nets might still drift in distant currents, she knew that with each dawn she would return, paws poised and heart resolute, to continue her crusade until the reef stood unburdened, and every creature swam free beneath the boundless blue.